Hello! My name is Philquan, and welcome to my first ever major world edit project. Today, I'm going to be turning this giant, flat piece of nothingness into a 2-scale replica of the Mushroom Kingdom from the Mario movie trailer. If you wish to skip the time-lapse and commentary and just want to see the final product, you can skip ahead to the following time in the video. But if you're going to be skipping all my hard work and effort, the least you can do is like and subscribe, right? Sounds fair? Sounds fair. Anyway, into the good stuff. Now, before I got into this, I wanted to make sure I got some of the basic elements down. And one of the most basic elements of the Mushroom Kingdom is, of course, mushrooms. So, I got to work super quick, putting together a few mushrooms of various sizes and colors. I haven't colored them yet because it's easier to leave them all one color and then change it, as I paste them about to what I need them to be. So now that the mushrooms are done, it was time to move on to the big rocks you see everywhere in the background. I wanted to get 3 different sizes of rocks. And now, with the mushrooms and the stone domes completely textured and complete, I can move on to the main foundation of the build, which is, all the terrain underneath. Now, the most important and difficult part of this process was getting the perspective and scale of everything correct. So first thing I did was find a nice height level for where I think I'm approximately going to be viewing from. And then from there, I just built the terrain out. And you can see the gold part that I'm doing right now is to get understanding of where exactly the castle is going to go and the main dome for that. And also, I apologize for all the flickering and stuff. Replay Mod, frustratingly, does not have the same render distance abilities as the actual game. So I'm having to kind of follow my character along to record this, and it's not ideal. You can see I started trying to position some of the domes that are front and center in the image, so I had a good reference point from where I was going from there. Okay, and now that I had most of the main area foundation done, like the landscape roughly done and the key rocks, it was time to smooth out the landscape. And you're going to see a couple different questionable techniques here. Like I said at the start of the video, this is my first ever world edit attempt. So I was kind of learning techniques as I went along and figuring out what worked for me, and I got better as I went along, but I used a couple different techniques, mostly sand to start, and then I figured out there's such thing as the smoothing tool, which I would have loved to know about earlier, but either way, I get it done, and this is the process of smoothing it all out. And now that I had all the landscape to the rough shape I wanted it, it was time to let's see what it was actually going to look like. And to do that, I had to turn all that stone and sand into grass. And this immediately made a massive difference, even though in the end you'll see I didn't actually use grass as the grass, I guess. You know what I mean. The next major step in this build was to add all the key mushrooms that you can see most prominently in the picture. Or, well, a lot of them at this point. And I tried as hard as I could to make sure they were all in the exact place they should be. You can see I keep coming over to the left on that little block because that's where I originally planned my perspective being from. So I kept going back to check that I was putting things in the right place. And I color them all to what they need to be. Yeah, this is a very crucial part of the process, as I'm sure you can guess. Now, unfortunately, something I realized as I was getting those mushrooms down to the right is I completely messed up the shape of the terrain on the side closest to the camera. This all starts way too high and it goes at way too steep of an angle, so I had to pretty much undo a large majority of my work to fix the terrain. Now that the terrain had been mostly fixed up, it was time to move on to the next pressing matter. The front of the castle. All the buildings that climb up the little hill in front of the main castle. So I worked on that for a while, and to be honest, it was very difficult because there's so many little things happening in the front of this dome of the castle, and I simply cannot recreate them in Minecraft. The colors are all different and the scale is not what it should be. As is a whole thing, but I did my best and that's what I'm doing now. And something else I ended up having to do was create another size of mushroom. An even smaller version than what I had before, because in areas like this that I'm filling in right now, there's so many mushrooms populated in one tiny area. I had to figure something out. So I got a bunch of much smaller mushrooms that I end up using quite a lot throughout the rest of this build. And now that I had finished most of the central piece of the build, it was time to start branching out and going all the way back to the far reaches of the reference image. To all the stones that are way in the background and all of that stuff. So right now I'm just expanding all of the land, and it goes a lot farther than I initially expected it to. So I might have to do some catching up in this time lapse, but here is the most of the right side of this build. Well, rather frustratingly, most of the time-lapse footage for the right side of this build was corrupted. So I'm left with just a progress update, I guess, but you can see I ended up changing all of the grass to green wool because it looks much more accurate to the image and I don't have to look at dirt and everything, so much better. I added this path of mushrooms going up and behind, which is accurate to the photo, of course, and all of these rocks, which again are accurately placed to the best of my ability for the image. And yeah, that's basically what the right side looks like now. Moving on, we've got the left side, which is not corrupted yet. Keyword yet. We'll see. And it's pretty much the exact same process as the right side. I was just expanding the terrain outwards to as far back as that needed to go, and then adding rocks, mushrooms, and everything else I needed to make it look good. So here is that entire process. And now that most of the left side's done, I had to move on to the most annoying thing of this entire build, which is figuring out all the mushrooms that are front and center in the picture. So all the ones closest to your face, which means I had to do so much work figuring out perspective and scale, and it was honestly a terrible experience, not gonna lie. But this is this is what it looks like. And now we enter the final stretch. You guys can't tell the difference, but this is exciting because this is the last recording of the builds. I finish it all in this session here that I recorded. And the first thing I need to get done is the main centerpiece of the entire build, the castle. And originally I was quite concerned about this because I didn't think I'd be able to recreate it very well, but you'll see, I think in the end I actually did a pretty good job. Now that the castle had been complete, it was time for the finishing touches. The only rocks that I hadn't done yet were the floating ones that you see on the left side of the picture and a couple on the right. The first one I'm doing is on the left side, and this was actually not nearly as hard as I expected. It's just getting a basic shape down and finding where exactly in the terrain it needs to go for perspective reasons, but it wasn't too bad at all. And this is me throwing together the last few floating islands. Well, that last floating island was slightly out of render distance, but it got built, and now, truly all that was left was the final few touches. Just the little itty-bitty details that I hadn't done yet, like the domes I just put on the left to fill in the camera angle, and I'm going to put some rocks in the middle there, as I'm doing now, and then some flowers on the right side of the hill, and little things like that. So this is truly the last stretch. Here we go. And here it is, the final product. It doesn't look as good as the thumbnail because, you know, it's not with the fancy clouds texture pack and minus the Photoshop editing, but you know, that's just for pretty purposes. This is the final build. It looks pretty dang good, if you ask me. And let's take a quick little fly around so you can see it from more than just that one perspective. Yeah, you don't really want to see it from more than just one perspective. This build is very much built with the idea that it's only being viewed from that one angle. So all of these mushrooms floating in the sky, yeah, they're not so pretty once you start flying around. And when you get close up to things like these orange flowers, also not so pretty. I struggled a lot to color match to the flowers in the photo, so there's that. But yeah, this is the Mushroom Kingdom in Minecraft. Fully complete. The farther away you go, the less I worried about details. You know, you see I didn't even destroy all the floating blocks, but you can't tell in the picture. Oh, and of course the castle does not exist beyond the front surface, but this was an amazing project, and I had a lot of fun, if I'm being honest. Certain parts were a little bit scary, and I stalled, which is why it took so long to get this out. But overall, I think I'm happy with the final product, and I hope you are too. And if you are, please consider subscribing, leaving a like, and commenting down below to let me know your thoughts. And I hope to get another massive World Edit build out sometime in the near future. So, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.